Hey friends, this is the Miss Volfie from our half-acre homestead, and we're at the quilt frame. My Aunt Jane was in her 80s when she passed. And as far as I know, this is one of the last quilt tops she ever made. Like I said before, when I'm finished, I'm going to trim this all off at this point and make it square, because I'm not going to have time to bind the edges like this. It would be a nightmare. But some of the fabric, now my Aunt Jane was a true quilter. She never bought well, maybe she did, I don't know. But all of these fabrics, I can tell you, this is from a house dress, and so is this. Now the problem is some of these fabrics are a little bit on the frayed side, so we know what to do with this, don't we folks? We're gonna darn that. Now I have this on Zoom, so forgive me because I can't get it any closer because it's on the tripod. Now this whole piece, this whole fabric is not that great. So I'm just going to do a bit of weaving. It doesn't have to be a huge deal, folks. We just want to reinforce that fabric. Now, I'm just going to very carefully, it's not a real darning job because it's not ripped. I'm just darning in a patch. So all I'm going to do is I'm going to weave this in and out of the fabric. It'll show better on the other side when I get to the other end. Now this isn't the darning together of a tear, it's a worn patch, and you can do worn patches. Now, if this was anything else, I probably would just, sew a little patch over it. But A, I don't have any of this fabric, and B, it's not necessary. It's not necessary. I want to keep as much of the original integrity of the quilt top as I can. There are going to be a few puckers here and there. I did not make this quilt. This is another thing. When you quilt somebody else's quilt top, like when you're just handed a quilt top to quilt, you don't know the quilt top. You didn't make it. So there's going to be things you're not aware of that are going to have to be fixed. And now, see, I'm going to go back and forth this way. Again, I am not darning a tear. I am darning a frayed spot. And what I'm doing here is this is where the original thread came in. And I'm just weaving it in and out of the top part of the quilt top. And I'm pretty sure this fabric goes all the way around. So guess what, folks? I may have to do this a couple of times. So what I'm going to do, folks, is I'm just going to continue to go back and forth, weaving a little patch where this fabric is frayed. It's not the first time I've had to repair a quilt when it's on the frame. I've had seams come apart. Now, unfortunately, you can actually see where I darned it and on the underside here. But if I had the fabric, I would have just cut a patch right in here of the same fabric and then invisible stitched it in. But I don't have the fabric. And I also wanted to preserve the integrity of this as much as I could. So there, we've darned the weak spot. It'll show, but in the end, in the whole scheme of things, it's really not that big of a deal. This is the Mrs. Volfie from the quilt frame saying, when you're working on somebody else's quilt top, surprises happen, especially when they were elderly. But God, I miss my Aunt Jane. I wish I could talk to her now. The things she could tell me, the things she already has. Take care, God bless.